Hey, it's Molly. Welcome back to my YouTube channel as we take a look at the Virgo New Moon happening on September 14th at 9:39 p.m. That's Eastern Time. So be sure and adjust for your location on the planet. So we have the Sun and the Moon together here at 21 degrees of Virgo, 58 minutes. We round up to 22 degrees of Virgo, and this is the area in your chart where the new intentions are being set that Virgo desires to fulfill and have come to fruition in this new cycle. So you would identify where you have 22 degrees of Virgo by house placement. And this is where the Sun and the Moon are together, merged as one under the same intention. And it's asking yourself, what do I want to produce, organize, analyze, create, take action on, move forward with this Virgo new moon? And what is quite interesting about this Virgo new moon is that it could feel like Virgo season is finally starting. And that's a bit amusing considering the Sun and the Moon are in the third decan of Virgo, but it's the new moon, and this Mercury, one of the co-rulers of Virgo, has slowed down to station direct during this new moon. So this could be the time when you finally get the information. You finally get the details. You finally get the communication, or something you've been waiting on comes through with this Virgo new moon that coincides with Mercury stationing direct in Virgo. And so that's what I mean when I say like it could feel that Virgo season is finally starting. Now, this would be a time to gather your duckies together and put them in a row. Make sure you have what you need, because this is when things can start to finally move, and the exact next steps will show up and be more evident, even if you feel like things have been in a fog, you've been in a holding pattern, you've been waiting to hear back about something. And maybe you have even reached that point of, well, never mind, I'm just going to figure it out myself. And that is a strength of Virgo. Virgo is mutable earth. It's about being adaptable, trying another option, going with another possibility, looking at, okay, if this doesn't work, then I'll do this. And perhaps you've already been doing that with this Mercury retrograde in Virgo energy, where you were required to do some do-overs, to try again, to go back and look at the specifics, to read those terms and conditions, to look at the facts. Virgo is also the energy of analysis, methodology, a process, efficiency, and it is quite scientific. So it gets down into the minutia of something. And of course, you would know this if you have any personal planets in Virgo. And what this energy desires is to be effective, to be efficient, to make progress. And that's what you could be ready to do now, even after you had to wait, things were on pause, nothing was happening. Now, both the Sun and the Moon are making a lovely trine to Uranus at 22 degrees of Taurus, 57 minutes retrograde, which adds in more energy and possibility for forward movement, because Uranus, even though Uranus is retrograde, wants things to be shaken up, shaken, not stirred, wants there to be something that happens. There can be anxiety with Uranus. There can be like this pulsing energy of, I can't sit still, I can't just wait, I've got to do something. It's pulsing the energy out, it's perhaps pacing back and forth. And now there's this connection here where Uranus is working with the new moon, and it's going to help move things forward quickly. So if there were delays, postponements, things that were not showing up, especially during this Mercury retrograde in Virgo, well, now there's a sense of, aha, it clicks, it's happening okay. And by the way, it can happen quickly because Uranus doesn't want to always do what's linear. Uranus wants to make things exciting, and that can even be disruptive. But with this energy to the sun and the moon, there's a sense of new possibilities now. Things that weren't possible before show up now. And those can be the surprises, but these can be happy surprises. These can be things that come through out of the blue when you least expected it. So this energy is definitely helping this Virgo new moon start. And I feel too like you could have had an inkling to keep the faith. Like whatever you had to wait for, again, it was delayed, postponed, you were in a holding pattern. These planets in Virgo have been in an ongoing conversation with Jupiter and Taurus, now retrograde. This retrograde, which started September 4th, is basically holding something steady and stable because of the fact that Jupiter is hanging out here at 15 degrees of Taurus and has been working positively with Mercury retrograde and was in an exact trine with the sun about 6 days before this new moon. There could have been a part of you that was just, let's just wait, I've got this. I know something is coming up, coming through. And that's something that Jupiter can certainly offer us, even though Jupiter is retrograde. So there is the internalization of what you've been learning and being able to trust even when you can't quite see it yet. Now, Jupiter in Taurus makes things visible. It is an earth sign, and you want to see the evidence. You want to see what's developing. But if you felt like you were waiting on something, this could be a new moon where, yeah, it shows up. It comes through and it clicks. Now, we do have another story unfolding here as the sun and the moon move through these late degrees of Virgo. So as we discussed, right, you've got the trine here to Uranus, which is exciting, often beneficial, something coming through, maybe even at the last minute, that last minute development. Although I would say that because the sun is going to be at 22 degrees right after this new moon, it's still going to be in that trine to Uranus. So there could be like a few days of this energy showing up to support. But then after the sun and the moon each move away from not only their new moon, but from this trine to Uranus, they're going to oppose this Neptune at 26 degrees of Pisces retrograde. And that opposition means that something is going to leave. Now, first it's going to be the moon. The moon travels faster, so the moon will get to 26 degrees of Virgo and make that exact opposition here to Neptune and Pisces. This does happen every month, so the moon is used to it. It's a surrender. It's a give it up. It's, okay, I've just got to let some things go that were, I thought, certain or I thought I could rely on. When a planet opposes this Neptune, it removes and dissolves, and it's a surrender. So there is some kind of emotional surrender. And then when the sun moves to 26 degrees and opposes this Neptune, which only happens once a year, the sun in Virgo opposes this Neptune, that can feel more about what you want or what you desire because of how the sun is that solar consciousness of self. And so this is something that you feel you have no choice but to let it go. And part of what comes up between the Virgo and Pisces axis here is that Virgo, especially when it gets to 26 degrees, has worked for something. has applied effort, has, really wanted to see a result, to see something develop. And then it has to give it up. Has to give it up to this opposition from Neptune and Pisces. And that's kind of like, oh my gosh, what was all that for? Why was I working so hard? What in the world? I thought I had this locked down. I thought it was clear. I thought I knew what I was doing. Now, what is going to come through though is that even though there is something that could feel like you don't know the information or the answer, you don't know what will transpire when the sun opposes this Neptune, then the sun gets to 28 degrees and makes a trine to this Pluto in Capricorn at 28 degrees for the last time in our lives. Yeah, I know that's a grandiose statement. I said what I said, but it's true. The sun in Virgo gets to 28 degrees, trines this Pluto at 28 degrees of Capricorn retrograde. And Pluto brings through something that is that power surge. That is that, oh, okay, yes. Here is the yes. Here is the yes. So what we have here is something that is being empowered and strengthened after a no. So the energy is yes, definitely, let's do it. Nope, no way, it's leaving. This is it. Try this instead. And there's energy here to be aware of. The strengths of Virgo, I should say, is the energy is about remaining flexible and adaptable to the best possible next steps and outcome. So if this no with the opposition to Neptune sets you back, feels like a defeat, feels like what's the point, the Pluto will deliver. And the Pluto will deliver to these planets in Virgo for the last time in our life through this trine. And so this is where, again, this Pluto wants to empower. Yeah, Pluto brings up the fears, the doubts, the things that you have to look at. You've got to look at that scary monster under the bed. You've got to face something deep in your psyche. There's something that Pluto wants you to be strong enough, especially in Capricorn, strong enough to look at. And then it helps connect the pieces for the Virgo plan and planning and what's to come in the Virgo journey and the Virgo desire to be of service, where you want something to be useful, you want it to work. And so even when something doesn't work through that opposition, something else will. Something else will work. And this is happening in the earth signs, which is about our physical world, your tangible reality. This is about, what you are focusing on, especially in terms of your physical body, your health, your well-being, how you are showing up every day to take care of things, what you need to take care of, what's part of your lifestyle. I think of Virgo as our daily devotions. And you better believe that your dog knows that you're devoted to feeding them twice a day, right? So there's things here that we're responsible for. Virgo's a very responsible sign. And it's looking at, well, what needs to be refined? What is the refinement here? Virgo is also discerning. So this Virgo new moon could bring up some questions that you're like, oh, yeah, that really is not working. That's not okay, or it's not demonstrating itself to be of use or of service. So let's look at some new options here. And that could be something that this Virgo new moon is pushing you to do. Now, with this Mercury now stationing direct at 8 degrees of Virgo, this Mercury has information that has been accumulated and collected, and then is going to be connected to the new solutions and the new ways forward. So this Mercury is almost hyper focused on the details, on the small things, on what you could do, the minor changes, the minor pivots that can be made. Now, not only is Mercury a ruler of Virgo, but another co-ruler of Virgo is Chiron. And Chiron is over here at 18 degrees of Aries retrograde. And what I find interesting here about the connection between Aries and Virgo is that Aries is the beginning point. You start something. You're ready to go. You take off and you want to do it. And Chiron tends to slow us down because there's something that comes up through the Chiron journey that is about understanding maybe what you're not so good at just yet, what you have to further understand and work with or work through, because Chiron is our vulnerabilities that we have to live with, that we have to cope with, that we have to figure out how to integrate, and as we do so, to not diminish our self-love, to not allow that to be something that weakens us to the point of being in victim consciousness. Chiron can be where you feel like a victim, especially in a natal chart. What I've observed is that if this Chiron is working with particular personal planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, or Mars, it can really have that unconscious layering of victim energy, like I'm not good at this, I'll never do this well. It could be your Eeyore complex as well. But what we're learning here about the Chiron and Aries journey that started in 2018 is how to be better at being our authentic selves, wounds and scars and yucky stuff and all of that, simply understanding that's part of our humanness, loving it, and seeing ourselves in a compassionate way. Now, the Aries energy, because it's the first sign of the zodiac, begins something, begins a process, begins a journey, and then Virgo is the maintenance. How's that going for you? Is that keto diet working? Are you drinking enough water? Did you really stick with that first impulsive desire to move towards something? And if so, is it still something you want to maintain? And with strong Virgo and this Aries energy, it really highlights our body consciousness, our physical well-being, our energy levels, how you're able to take care of yourself, to prioritize what you need without sacrificing it for your job or for someone else or for something bigger than you, which is often part of the Virgo energy. And it's looking at, it is necessary here to tune in with how your body is performing, to tune in and then maybe get a tune up. If things need to be enhanced, or you need to be taking more of those vitamins, or you need more exercise. So that could be part of this Virgo new moon too. And because it's co-ruled by this Chiron in Aries, you might be learning to develop the courage to do something new, to try it out, to go for it, to believe in yourself, believe that you're capable. And then Virgo is also where the results show up because of how you have maintained the energy, or how you have consistently been doing those sit-ups and eating your broccoli and showing up for work. So it's through the consistency of Virgo that the results can be more evident. And so this can be a Virgo new moon where you're checking in on your well-being, your physical health, anything you've been healing that has required your devotion and staying on top of it. Now, we also have in this chart Venus is now direct at 14 degrees of Leo. She's in her shadow, making an ongoing square to this Jupiter at 15 degrees of Taurus, retrograde. And this is an amplification energy that makes it bigger. Like it's a really big desire, something you're really attracted to, you really want. And the square can be this energy of, but how do I get it? How do I make it real for myself? How do I connect the dots here to bring it together? And this is an ongoing square that actually started in August and it goes here into September because of Venus now moving direct and Jupiter now retrograde. So they're still in this dialogue of Venus still doesn't have everything she wants, and she has to temper her fire around that. But now she is moving forward, and that creates this trine to Chiron in Aries as well. And that is where she learns to self-soothe or to focus on herself, to be aware of what she's healing through the relational dynamics at play here. So if there's something going on for you in relationships, connections, creations, something even that came up during the Venus retrograde, and maybe you've been figuring out how to take care of your heart, how to work with it, then this trine here to Chiron is going to remind you of the necessity of taking care of who you are and to not let it affect your self-esteem or your self-confidence, to not turn the energy against yourself, but instead to just allow it to be something that you're aware of. And I feel too like this Chiron trining Venus is also supporting the healed story, the healed version. What did you move through during Venus retrograde that has shifted you? And now this Chiron wants you to feel stronger around that development and to see yourself in a courageous light, to really feel good and strong about maybe whatever came up or what you moved through during the Venus retrograde time period. And the other thing I want to highlight in this Virgo New Moon chart is that, so this Mercury is at 8 degrees of Virgo, stationing direct, and it is widely opposing this Saturn at 2 degrees of Pisces retrograde. And that opposition is a standstill. Yeah, it's like, okay, let me just stop right here, think it through, take some deep breaths, assess what is needed, what is essential, and then go forward. So it isn't a direct opposition, but it is something that, this Saturn has a presence, And the opposition to Mercury feels the presence, but it's not harsh, it's not exact. So it's more like, all right, yeah, I get it. There's some things that aren't going to work. And this Mercury is aware of that. And that could be something too that, you take a beat and just gather things together and you're like, okay, I get what's not going to work because my intuition, Pisces, is making it really clear. And it's up to us if we listen or not, because even if you listen, that Saturn in Pisces will make it evident that no, this is not working, and you knew that, and you felt that, and then sometimes we have to just try it anyways, right? We just got to test it. Let me just test this hypothesis. Let me just see what comes up, and it's probably not going to be the results you want. So just know that part of this Virgo new moon is that sense of being realistic and practical and discerning with your energy. There's also a need to just take it one thing at a time. That Virgo energy is like, okay, you do this first and then you do that next, and that's how we move this train forward. So think of it as it's a good time to do less, knowing that that's what's going to move you forward, that's what's going to get you going. And also to trust that there could be some type of evolutionary process you are moving through as this sun interacts with the three outermost planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, which is rare, by the way, for the sun to be interacting with all three within a week. So this is where there could be something that comes through after this new moon that, again, you've been working on it. Finally, it shows up. It's not what you thought it would be. It looks different. There's things you had to give up along the way. But I feel like there's something here that the universe really wants to bring forward to this Virgo energy. Here are your gold stars. Here is your fancy new gold plaque. There can be resolution here. There can be good terms and conditions. There could be things that show up that are just a really solid answer. And so you will feel this energy of the Virgo new moon most intensely if you have personal planets or points. I'm going to say 20 to 28 degrees of Virgo. And that's because I'm saying 20, even though the sun and the moon were already at 20 degrees, it's still lingering there, and they both move forward, right? They're never retrograde. They always advance, and they move forward. And then 28 degrees is basically like a power point of energy. So 20 to 28 degrees of Virgo, even 20 to 28 degrees of Taurus and Capricorn. In fact, if you have any astrological planet or point at 28 degrees of Taurus, you're going to have an Earth grand trine when the sun gets to 28 degrees of Virgo. So just that's a little bingo moment. I like to play bingo where we look at our charts, see what we have. Does this line up for me? Do I have that? Is it connecting? So that's just a bingo to be aware of. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll be back with another video for you here on YouTube soon. I appreciate your likes, your comments, your subscribes. Thank you so much for joining me on this astrological journey. And also thank you for sharing this video in your Facebook groups with others who would enjoy it. I will see you back here soon, and I hope you have a lovely Virgo new moon.